Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for today's acting panel from the Bushwick Film Festival. I'm excited to talk to all of you today. But before we get into our conversation about actors and film festivals and all the things facing our industry today, I would love to just hear a little bit about you. So if you could just tell me your name, what kind of work that you do, and your project that you had in the Bushwick Film Festival. Sakinah, I'd love to start with you.
Hi, I'm Sakinah Iman. I'm an actress, filmmaker, keynote speaker, and my film in the film festival was He Wants to Know My Number. And for me, my work is work that I feel speaks to the culture, it speaks to mental health. I love to create art that moves the spirit, that heals the soul. And so I help actors to incorporate their shadow selves into their work to make sure that whatever they're doing is something that's going to impact not just the people around them, but also impact themselves as well.
Great. Jeremy, tell the people who you are.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeremy Feight. I am an actor and a filmmaker and a playwright from Central Pennsylvania. I live in Crown Heights in Brooklyn now. The project that connected me with Bushwick Film Festival was my first short, Fever, that I started next to Janet Hubert and Alice Ripley. I believe it was 2022 or 23. Time is it real? My work, predominantly right now, I'm working on getting some features off the ground. I have another short called Spa Night doing the festival circuit. And I'm working on a one-man show that I'm working on getting up on its feet in the world. So I've done it a couple of times and now doing the pitchy, where's it gonna live thing that theater people have to do too. So I'm multi-hyphenate. Oh, I also have a workshop called the Money Making Multi-Hyphenate that I've done virtually, and I'm now working on bringing, to New York as well. That's about all the things we're going to talk about today, and how to kind of be financially healthy while you're doing those things.
Nice.
Amazing. Marishka's excited to see your one-man show, it seems like.
I love one person shows. That's my specialty to direct, but I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. My name is Marishka S. Phillips. I'm a 19-year acting coach and a director and a writer. I'm Brooklyn born, Fort Greene, and I've worked with actors. I work with actors. I love my assignment. I work with beginners, and I work with celebrities. So I just pour my heart into that kind of work. And I'm an artist through and through. I don't need to say too much, but I do have classes coming up in the city in October and November. If anyone is interested, find me on social media at I am Marishka SP.
I do want to start, though, by hearing more about how you learned about the Bushwick Film Festival, and why you wanted to tap into this specific community. And Sakinah, I would love to start with you. If you could tell us a little bit about your path to BFF.
Yeah, so I heard about BFF through uh, Film Freeway, which is how I hear about most of the film festivals. But then I started hearing more about BFF through friends, like after I submitted my film. And it was so funny because like so many people knew about it. People that I didn't know knew about it. I didn't know how big the festival was until the actual like happening of it, and then the day of when we were in the theater that we were in. That I forget what the name of the theater was. It Look Cinema? I can't remember if it was Look Cinema or I think it might have been a Regal Cinema. But either way, it was just such a big night and a big event. The movie theater looked beautiful. And so yeah, so I learned about it through Film Freeway, and then my whole journey towards wanting to know more was the fact that Kwebe, I didn't realize how connected she was and how much she was so passionate about film and about like hearing the voices of underrepresented communities. And so that was a powerful, like, oh, yes, I got to stick with this community because this is where I should be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Jeremy? How did you come to BFF?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I first was connected through submitting a film, my first short. But we were working with a producer who was sort of a festival guru. His name's Ramphis Myrtle, and Ramphis had been connected to films that had played at BFF before. So when we were strategizing about our festival plans, he was like, he sent us toward Bushwick and spoke highly of Quebe initially as well, and that excited me too. So yeah, I submitted my first film, Fever, and it was accepted into BFF, and that was my first BFF experience, 2022, I believe.
Okay, great. And Marishka, how about you?
Well, I was directing a short film about Eartha Kitt, and in the audience, as a participant in the film was Quebe, and the woman Deirdre, who wrote and starred as Eartha Kitt, she was like, she's the founder of the Bushwick Film Festival. I was like, no way. So that was my first introduction to Quebe, and then I just started learning more about the film festival, her having dialogues with me and meeting me, and then I joined a panel to speak about acting back in, I want to say, 2018.
Hmm.
And so that's how I came to know the Bushwick Film Festival and
Okay, great.
taking my acting classes. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, okay, nice. So, this is great because I kind of want to talk about, the sort of necessity of wearing multiple hats when you're working in film and working as a creative. Sakinah and Jeremy, you are both actors. Mariska, you work with actors, but you're all filmmakers and you all have to, do a lot of things that you don't necessarily have the official job title for, right? So I would love to hear a little bit more about how do you balance all of these things? How do you move forward and sort of, brand yourself as whatever it is, the more prominent thing you want to be known as, while still doing so much work behind the scenes? Maybe I'll go in reverse order. So, Mariska, if you could speak a little bit to managing all of the different things that one has to manage.
Well, first of all, I think talk about management, it's about time management as well, right? When you are wearing different hats and you're passionate about it and you're driven and ambitious, you can overwhelm your own self, right? And so my big thing is like what to say yes to and what to say no to, and in which capacity will I be working. Um, when I read a project and my spirit doesn't leap, then I'm like, well, this isn't for me. But when it does, I'm like, okay, I'm all in. How I manage it, it's just you have to do it, and you have to. I'd say even like in pre-production and gathering your team, if you could do like two, maybe three things a day, you're in a good pace because as a creative, we can work all night. Next thing you look up, it's daylight. So,
Hmm.
you get you prioritize is what I would say.
Gotcha. Okay, prioritize. I'm also just internalizing this for myself. Jeremy, how about you? What's your approach?
Yeah, I felt that sigh, Mariska, the sigh that Mariska started that answer with. I was like, yeah, that feeling. Yeah, I mean, I think capacity is and like bandwidth is a big in managing those things is a big part of being a multi-hyphenate, and that's something I've worked through since COVID, especially. I think we all did when we really kind of slowed down in 2020 in different ways, and um, but at the same time, I think 2020 was the first year that I was really in pre-production for a film of my own. And so because everything was shut down, I had no barriers around my time that required me to stop working. And so I was just locked down in my apartment, just on my laptop for 12, 14 hours a day. And I did that for a good 6, 8 months in pre-production for this film and a number of other things. And I really burnt out during that first film. And I learned that recovery process is really inhibiting when you burn out in that way and don't manage that earlier on. And so I think now for me, as much as it is about good time management and good sort of like team building around those tasks, I think if I don't take care of myself on a day to day and make sure that I'm rested and healthy and, healthy meaning emotionally and financially as well as physically healthy, I can't, I'll continue to hit walls, right? And those walls take longer to recover from than I think the day-to-day upkeep. So I think it's just about that self-care, whatever that means. I know that's a term that we throw around so much now in this time, but I think it's real that if I'm not A, physically healthy, but B, emotionally healthy, and C, I'm realizing financially healthy, which is such a huge thing for actors and artists, I can't really do the day-to-day work that's required. So yeah.
Yeah. So another thing to prioritize, right? In addition to the work that you're doing on the project, just the work of maintaining your own self. Sakinah, how about you?
Yeah, so I also felt all the things that Marishka we just said, because it's like a part of it is that I think multi-hyphenates are somewhat perfectionists to an extent. And so a part of that is also letting go of wanting things to be perfect. And so I feel like that's something that I've struggled with for a long time, and I still have to battle with that, because that can take up more time than it needs to take. Like sometimes things are right the way it is. You don't have to like do 10 more things to make this thing better. And so I think like what Marishka was saying, it's like kind of knowing when to say, yes, this is good enough, or this is great, this doesn't need to be any better. And then no, I don't need to like have 10 more things on this list, or I can delegate this to other people and have trust that they're going to do it well. Because I think the issues that issues that like I just feel like nobody is gonna do this, so I can do it. But I have to like have faith in people, because there are so many wonderfully talented people who can do it better than me. And so I feel like I also need to like step aside, get out of my own way, let others help out, let God help out, just like so I think that's what it is for me. It's like getting out of your way, and also prioritizing like what is for you and what's not for you. And so yeah, all of that is what in the self-care for me is like also making sure that I spend time with family, because there could be times where like, I'm go, every other day. It's like a really hardcore work day with film or with the projects like around the film. But then I haven't seen my mom in X, Y, and Z, or I haven't, my sister has been trying to have me see her daughter, my niece, for the longest time. And I'm like, you know what? I do have this day. Like, let me prioritize this part of me, because that is still who I am. And so, yes, I think just knowing the value system, like prioritizing what works for you and you go lower on the totem pole.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up other people. First of all, I think it's so funny that the word delegation prompted such a response, and I'm very curious to hear about why. But it kind of connects to this next thing I was curious about, which is, there are art forms that are really designed to be solitary experiences, right? Like writing can be a very solitary experience. If you're a visual artist, that can be a very solitary experience. But filmmaking, you could do it by yourself with all of the sort of technology that's accessible to us, but it is by nature such a collaborative art form. And that I think is part of what is beautiful about it. It can be part of what is frustrating about it at times, like how much faith you need to put in the hands of other people and how much or how little control you have at certain points in the process. But community, I think, is one of the most beautiful things about the art form too. And like so much of building a career in this industry is about building relationships and going to film festivals, making those connections. So I would love to hear a little bit more about how your relationships with other people have shaped your career, and how film festivals fit into that for you. Jeremy, I'm seeing a big expression from you, so I'd love to hear what's on your mind.
Yeah, no, I think that that's the conversation at some point. You know what I mean? At some level of making the thing, it's like, who do you have on your team and who, is really committed to pushing something up the hill with you, you know, and learning how to tag in, tag out, and like trust that people don't hate you if they have to move on to another thing, and like being, you know, I think I was listening to this the Jay Shetty and Emma Watson podcast that just came out this week. Emma Watson's like talking about a lot of her emotional journey being an actress and a multi-hyphenate, and she was talking about this sort of feeling of like being so emotionally connected to the people that you work with and wanting to make friends and wanting to make community. And then at some level in this business, or not level, but just sometimes in this business, people aren't interested in that. And that's okay on some level too, to be just business oriented. And so there is a real like solitary experience of learning how to be okay, especially as an actor. You know, there's this front facing sort of like, on some level, you're alone on the red carpet or in the interview or on set. You know, there is a solitary working moment, but you don't get to those moments without building relationships that put you in those positions. And I think I'm learning that at any given juncture, there's a choice to prioritize the emotional health of those relationships, or to prioritize the sort of like utilization of the access that those relationships give you. And I think that in beautiful circumstances, those things align, but it's not always the case. Sometimes there is a choice to be made about like prioritizing the people that prioritize me from an emotional and relational standpoint, and then choosing like, okay, I don't know this person that wants to rep me or wants to program my film, but they have this like expression of visibility. Like, do I choose that today because of I need money or whatever that is? And so I think the collaboration and community words made my body react in that way, because all of those things are so inside of that. And I think when I first entered this business, I started in theater, and I think that theater can be so much more like, you know, like gushy and like people and like and film can feel sort of like, whoa, just like jarring in comparison to that sometimes, the process, the speed of it. And so I've been on a journey the last 5-6 years of figuring out what does it mean to build relationships that last and that matter, while also being a business person, which don't always mix.
Yeah. Marishka, you look like you want to jump in. What's on your mind?
When he was talking about being the business person, I was like, if I could just be right brain every day, that would be so amazing. But to chime in on your question and what Jeremy was saying, opportunity, connection, plural, communication, very important. But to me, the biggest thing is the energy that someone brings into a room or someone brings into a meeting. Like, you know who you want to be around, and you know the tribe. I know my tribe. Like, I could feel it. Whether I'm meeting you for the first time, I go, ooh, tribe. Or I go, no, I'm very like, you know, it's like, no, thank you. I'll tell whoever I have to say, no, thank you to that person, please. Like, I can't do it, because, you know, it's when you're trying to create great art, the surrounding, you know, the people to support that, you know, you have to be on the same page. So, you know, that's the main thing I want to say, is that you're responsible for the energy you bring into the room, right? And you just want to make sure that the energy fits where you need it to fit, basically.
Yeah. Sakinah, how do you feel about this piece of the conversation?
Yeah, no, I mean, the energy is right, like spot on. Because I recently, like last week, I was an AD for a short film, and but as the AD, I don't necessarily have the full, you know, I'm not the casting director or the director. But there were two people on set that, you know, might not have been friends. And it definitely showed on the set. And it was a big thing. It was a big thing that wasted a lot of time. But I feel like like you really have to know the energy of the people that you're putting together as a leader to be able to make things like align, properly or just like seamlessly, and on top of that, as an actor too, like seeking roles. I remember one time I reached out to a director and I was like, how can I work with you? Like, I love your work. I would love to audition for something that you have. And he simply was just like, yeah, he was like, people hire their friends. And I was like, oh, cool. So I was like, yeah, we could be friends. And so like, I just like randomly would like, be like, hey, do it. Or I'll send like a little meme joke. You're like, oh, it's funny. And then like literally 3 months like after that, because I didn't hit him up every day, but it was like randomly. So 3 months after that, he was like, yo, I have this audition. I think you'd be, good fit. You should audition for this. And I auditioned and I got the lead role.
Wow.
Yeah, so thank you. And it recently played at the Hip Hop Film Festival. It was called Hip Hop Time Travel, and it was like I got to travel through time. So it was like cool to like see myself in that role. I played a young DJ. So it makes sense that yes, people hire their friends, and also people do better film with their friends. So it makes sense to have the energy right and the collaborators, people that you truly either know, can trust, or feel like very warm around. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I would love to hear a little bit more about like the strategy for actors specifically, right? Because you all are actors or you work with actors. So when an actor goes to a film festival, I'm curious from your guys' perspective, how can they maximize that experience? How should they be thinking about, participating in a festival and yeah, making those connections. What do you guys think? Marishka.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm in New York, but I did move to LA, and I was like, I want to go to LA. This was a long time ago, but I used to watch credits. Like I used to scan the credits just to find a familiar name, and I was scrolling it's about finding maybe who's doing in the credits what you might want to do or who you may want to shadow or who you may want to intern for, right? So I'm watching TV and I was like, I did an episode of The Cosby Show, right, as Denise's friend, and then A Different World came out, and I was still in New York, mostly doing musical theater at that time. But I said, I'm ready to go to LA, and I was scanning the credits and I saw a name, production stage manager, David Blackwell. He came from New York theater and he had done some stage managing for a show with, my mother was an actress as well. And so I called him, I said, I want to come to LA. Do you think I can like intern for you when I get there? And he was like, honey, I will put you on, So I ended up doing the last 2 seasons of A Different World just by scanning the credits. So I say,
Wow.
look at the category where you want to put yourself. See if you could, even if they're there, most likely they're at the festival.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in the festival and you see a film and you see someone in the category you want to work with, like, oh my gosh, who was the first grip? Or who was your DP for the film? Or maybe they were called to the front, like, you see how they called them to the front to introduce who worked on the film. And you can like pinpoint them and kind of just like start smoothing your way over towards them, in the crowd. It's just, like you said, connection and energy. Like I said earlier, connection and energy. I think that would be a great way.
Yeah, yeah. Sakinah, you're clearly not shy about reaching out to people, connecting with them. I'm curious, how do you think about going into a film festival specifically?
Yeah, with a film festival, it's funny how people can immediately become like your bestie in the festival, because sometimes you feel a little intimidated by all that's going on. So some people latch on to, let's say, a little group of people, or they'll latch on to just someone that they randomly sat next to in a film and they had a laugh about this comedic film. And all of a sudden now you're going to different films with these people, and then they become like your safe space in this like somewhat nerve-wracking place where it's all these people who are doing these big things. So I think that if you're a new actor and things feel a little scary. Just find like that group that feels like they could be your friends. Like, oh, this is my type of people. These are my type of people. And then on top of that, like there are certain panels or there are certain talks that they have that might be specific to something that you really want to do, or that you're really interested in. Go to all those panels and make sure that you get the contact of all the people who are on the panel. Because just like scanning, like Marishka said, just like scanning the film, it's almost like scanning a film credit, except now you're seeing the people in person, and you're allowing yourself to like be seen by them and have that direct connection. Because that's what I recently did at the Hip Hop Film Festival, and I was able to have coffee with like someone who's like Spike Lee's like right hand. Like he's done multiple movies with him, and he graduated from NYU like I want to say like maybe 15 years ago. But he recently had a film on Netflix that got a Spirit Award, and so it was just to hear his journey and to be able to sit down with that guy. Like his name is Stefan Bristol. And so yeah, it was like that's something I just because I was at the festival and I was like, I should link with this guy. So yeah.
Yeah. So finding those names, knowing who those people are, reaching out.
Yeah.
Jeremy, how do you think about your approach to festivals as an actor?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I think preparation is everything on some level. My sort of like Virgo self needs to know like what my goal is, or I'll get very overwhelmed because there are so many people and so many choices of things to go to, especially at larger festivals. And so I think for me, preparing looks like doing some of that credit scanning and like knowing what's in the program and especially films, but also the panels and everything. And then a lot of festivals will make available their industry contact lists for the folks that have registered for their industry badges for the event. And so I don't know if BFF does that, so I don't want to put anybody on blast, but I know that other festivals, when my reps have reached out and asked, especially if you're programmed in the festival, like asking, or if you're a part of a film that's programmed in the festival, it's worth asking the leadership if they have their industry contact list available. And that gives you an idea of who's actually physically on the ground. And that's been super helpful for me. Um, Alternatively, I think like there's this, I've been on a journey with what networking means to me and like what actually is successful in the room or in any room. And I'm learning that it works a lot better when I'm there to give something versus take. And I think that when I go to festivals now, I try to create space that I can give someone something through, i.e., if it's a larger festival, I'm planning to go to this bar down the street on Thursday after XYZ screening and tell everybody that I meet, like, come to this bar, I'm organizing this thing, come and, you know what I mean? Come to this, find a focal point. And if I don't have that, and if I don't have the resources or time for that, just have something to offer. Like, I have a reading coming up, come to this and I'll get you a seat, sort of thing. Rather than coming in with my ask first, because chances are, we all have things that we are creating. Everybody has their project they're pushing up the hill, or everybody has the thing that they want to get. And so I think looking at it specifically from an actor standpoint, finding a casting director from a film that you want, that you loved and you want to work with, approaching them, and saying, I'm an actor, like cast, like obviously that's the energy, that's the thing we want. But that person also is a human being that's just looking for safety and energy and like a good feeling interaction. And I think it's worked a lot more for me to offer to invite that person to a thing that I am a part of already, or to just say like, can I buy you a coffee, on your time when you're available, for 20 minutes to ask you some things. And just offering versus taking has always worked a lot better for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Because I do think networking is very intimidating for a lot of people. And I know for myself, like as a younger person, I was anticipating this like very buttoned up, very business oriented kind of like formal interaction. But what I've learned that it really is just seeing people and connecting with them. And it's not, yeah, just about what you want. It's about nurturing a relationship, right? That can grow and that can end up being fruitful for both of you. Um, Now, I know one way that a lot of people are urged very strongly to do this is also by building up their social media profile. And there are a lot of mixed feelings about this. I personally am someone who thinks it is a necessary evil. I'm like not happy about it. But I'm curious to hear if you guys feel differently though, because I'd love a little hope on that front. But you're all very active on social media, and it is a tool that you guys all lean into for your own work. So I'm curious to hear how you think about it kind of fitting into your larger goals and your work as a whole. Maybe Sakinah, we can start with you.
Yeah. Social media is like I have a love-hate relationship with, and I love it because it is such a great tool to put your work out there. Like I've gotten gigs from social media. I've gotten many auditions from social media. So I think that it's great for that. I do feel like it can suck up so much time.
Yeah.
Yeah, not careful because I will go on there and be like, okay, I gotta send this message to this person, and then out of nowhere, like 30 minutes go, and I'm like, whoa, like what was I doing?
The vortex. Yep.
I got sucked in. So yeah, I think if you use it properly and make sure that you stay disciplined, like if you have a time that you need to do certain things, just set your timer. Like you have to be real strong with social media because I'm telling you, it can pull you in. But yeah, no, I think for me, I want to do more, like I want to show more short films, like shorts, you know. Shorts is the new wave, you know, if you put out a short, you never know where it's gonna land. And I feel like there are some influencers who put out shorts and they get so many views and then they start to get these opportunities that can lead to commercial deals. You know, even my film, He Wants to Know My Number, Showtime emailed me and reached out to me and Paramount Plus now because they're dual now. And they wanted to license my film. They would have never seen my film had it not been for social media. So I feel like you definitely just got to keep putting yourself out there as much as possible. And now that same film is on Hulu and Apple TV. And I just all because I like threw a teaser of the film, you know, online, and then they looked it up and they were like, "We're obsessed with this film." But yeah, it's all about just sharing and sharing as much as you can, but sharing the best parts of yourself, I guess, so that you look professional.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's wow, the power of being seen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Marishka, I saw you kind of, the time thing seemed to resonate with you, but I'm curious, how do you think about your social media?
I wish I could quit you. Yeah, I mean, I use it, you know, I've been using it mostly as service to give actors tips and do little snippets of acting advice and little tools that I like to share with my actors in my sessions and stuff like that. And I think it's effective. You know, I'm not definitely not doing it for the blue check, but I think that a lot of producers find it very important to see how many followers an artist has because that's the money draw that you say, oh, well, look at how much audience they were coming with. And so it's become very important, you know. It is a time sucker upper, but it's one of those necessary things that has come to be.
The necessary evil. Jeremy,
Yeah.
what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, I think it's one of many tools that are available to you, you know, whether you're an actor or a filmmaker or what have you. I think it's one of many. And I do think we're in a place where it's necessary to at least be making a conscious decision about how you're, you know, relating to it, because I know actors that don't have followings that are working, and that's true. And they have entry points elsewhere, right? These actors are predominantly people that came through grad school programs that have connected them to work or have communities that led them there. And so I think I've gone back and forth. There have been times where I've been like, I'm deleting it, I'm off, I'm not. And then there are times where I'm like, all right, I have a screening, you know, I got to post it. And so I think it's a tool rather than, if I keep it in a tool place, I feel like I can be in control and decide how to use it. And so I personally have released the goal of like becoming any sort of like influencer of any kind for internet specifically, but I do use it as a place to make sure that, like Sakinah was saying, my work is visible to people that don't necessarily know me personally. And I've also gotten auditions and work and meetings. And I think that it's a tool for communication for me predominantly. Like a lot of times folks won't be accessible via email that are accessible on Instagram, especially casting directors, I think are actually super accessible there generally. And actually even more so like producers, I think like folks that don't have a sort of audience. I think casting directors since COVID are becoming this sort of like their own level of like internet famous for better or for worse. But producers generally aren't. Like there are major producers that are just like on there with 600 followers, like posting their kids. And like I think like building relationships online with those folks can expedite careers, again, for better or for worse. But I think for me, it's just a place to make sure my work is visible, and I'm challenging myself to put things out there more frequently, my work and other little short form content, and to communicate with folks who I don't have a connection with.
Mm-hmm. I like keep it in a tool place. I'm gonna keep that one in here. I like that. So the last thing I want to leave us with, I want to talk a little bit about like I guess this future that's kind of being painted for us, right? There's a big conversation happening in the entertainment industry around AI, in many industries around AI. And for me personally, it's hard for me to know like what is real, what is a real threat, what should I be considering, and what should I be ignoring, right? Because a hopeful and I hope not too naive part of me is like people make this art form, and people aren't going to be interested in watching an AI and listening to an AI. But like, who knows, right? I think we're in a place where we don't really know what's coming next. So I'm curious to know how much are you considering these things as you think about sort of the next steps in your own career? And how are you thinking about moving forward? Jeremy, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think similarly about AI. The tool thing I think is a big mantra for me. Like I am the utilizer of AI. I am not like ruled by AI, and so I have come a long way with my philosophies around this over the last year. I think about a year ago or a little more, if you asked me this, I would have been like, God, F that. Like, no AI at all. And now I'm realizing because of where we literally are, it has spread like wildfire in a way that like it's not going anywhere. Without sans some like massive, like violent uprising, AI is not going anywhere. And I think therefore I would be missing out on an opportunity to at least be as educated as possible on what it is and where that technology is at, and then make a moral decision about where I want to use it. I personally use it as like a clerical assistant. Like I'm just using it to proofread things for me, to prepare emails that are maybe not necessary for me to put my heart into. To honestly, I've never said this publicly, but I have it read my pages of scripts and to like give me feedback from the perspective of a programmer at XYZ or as an exec at XYZ. Like read this and give me feedback from that person's perspective. The boundary I draw with myself is that I am the writer. Like AI does not put pen to paper for me. I am the actor. My business is this body in some way, and so that's my boundary. But I do utilize it, and it makes me more effective. So that's sort of my POV. But also the other thing I wanted to say about AI is that this is where God really comes into the mix for me, because like I can't be in control of where the world goes in general right now with everything happening, but I especially can't control the development of AI. I am not a scientist in that way, and so I think this has made me a lot more connected to my trust of a higher power that is going to guide me in my career. And I know that if I'm having fun and that if I'm creating things, that I'm going to be okay. And I think that this has also made me think about what artists in wartime, and to me, this is a wartime, on some level. And I think about like, what's the function of an artist at wartime? And it is to like tell the truth and it is to like serve people. And I think this has made me a lot more cognizant of how my art is impacting the people I can reach out and touch, and has taken me away from how do I get 1 million followers to get to the Oscar. Like, it's gotten me into like, how do I go to BFF and meet somebody who needs to hear about queer people doing XYZ in my film? And so it's made my scope smaller, and that keeps me happier inside of all the things I can't control.
Yeah. Sakinah, I see you nodding to some things. Yeah, what's on your mind?
Yeah, it's AI. I mean, we've technically have always had artificial intelligence to an extent, even from like the refrigerator, like when you think about just the basic first computer. So I think, technology is just getting way more advanced to a point where if we don't learn it, we're going to get left behind. And so I've been doing my best to like stay abreast of all the new things that's going on. Even just like the ways that they use the human voice to, assimilate the artificial intelligence to sound like a human. I've had companies reach out to me, and now I work with them where they'll use my voice as research from somebody who's from like New York, and to sort of create their own replication of a voice of a young Black woman from New York, so it's just like random ways that we can figure out how AI works for us and not against us. Like Jeremy, I've used AI to help me with like resumes and with documentation, like things that like, or even scripts too as well, and just like helping me to see like, okay, like where's the hole here? What would a producer say? What would a casting director say? How can I make this, if I'm submitting to a grant application, how can I make this sound more like a person who needs this grant or who deserves this grant? And so I think in a way, the best thing for us to do is, I think, like trust that it's going to get better. We're going to find a way where it can work for us and not against us. I know it's scary, but a lot of things were scary, and now we're doing it like it's nothing. And so I think instead of, being in fear, sort of go towards and not against. And even something like vertical shorts, for example, I don't know if you guys have seen vertical shorts, but they're becoming huge. And it's not like the best film acting or best film productions, but I have a friend who he just filmed the vertical, and he told me how these verticals are like, they make people like 80K, you can just like sell a vertical. But then the people who you sell it to, the app that you sell it to, they turned around and made 900K off of his 80K. You know what I mean? So it's just like, why it's mind blowing, but there's billions of people in the world. So we can find a way. And I feel like if you just use your heart, your spirit, God, like use a way to like make it all come into one where it can benefit all of us in a way.
Keep your eyes open and stay flexible and respond to the moment. Yeah. Marishka, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this, particularly as somebody who has been in the industry for such a long time. I don't know. I wonder if this feels like as big of a pivot as people are saying it is, or does it feel like the industry is constantly pivoting and this is just one more thing? But I would love to hear your thoughts about how AI is sort of emerging in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like super old school, but I did use it for the first time a couple of weeks ago to create a letter to executive producers that I wanted to come see this play I just directed off Broadway. So I think what Jeremy said is, as a tool, I think it could be helpful. What makes me nervous is that if it replaces actors, right, that have been honing their craft for decades, that makes me sad that it could be a very present possibility, and my thing is like art wins, like real art. Like Jeremy says, no, I'm the writer. I put pen to paper. Hallelujah. Sakinah, you say, you've been creating with it and you use it to help you clean up and your perfectionist comes out. Then, you want a perfect, composed letter or, something like that, or resume. I think it's okay, for things like that. Because like I said, I just used it to compose a letter. But it makes me so nervous that it will, I believe, replace actors. Because when actors work, they get to heal, right? They get to heal and they get to heal others with their storytelling. That's the kind of work I do as an acting coach. I really excavate truths. And so, yeah, it does make me nervous. I'm not going to lie. Like, how far will it go? It's already like, so it's just a matter of time, I feel. But I'm going to believe 10 toes down that actors will still be acting. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah. I know it is interesting, right? Because I think just a few days ago, we got news that an agency is like signing up an AI actor. And yeah, it does feel a little bit, I don't know, I feel uneasy personally. And so I think about, festivals like this one, it's a good opportunity to like come together with people in flesh and bone and be together and I don't know, realize that, hey, we're here, right? We're making things and we have each other to rely on. So whatever happens next, like at least there's that. And it's something I think we'll be figuring out as a collective. So, the festival, attending a festival is sort of one part of the equation, but the time after the festival is also really important as well. So I'm curious to hear how you guys follow up on these connections that you make at these types of gatherings. Marishka, what?
Yeah, I'll usually follow them on Instagram and just stay in touch, drop a note, see what they're up to, like their photos, comment on things, and just keep in touch. I think that's the easiest way for me at this moment. Just find you on Instagram and follow up.
Mm-hmm. That is the gift of social media, I will say. You can find people a lot more easily. Yeah. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, similarly, I'll make sure that I follow folks and I try to get a personal contact to like an email or something, and then always follow up. And like I said, like I do in festivals, when I reach out to folks after, I always try to offer something, whether that's as simple as like, hey, what really stuck with me when you said da da da, and I really like your energy, or I loved your film, and then here's why, and da da da. Gift in that way, or offering. I always try to offer to buy someone a coffee or a lunch if I'm going to ask them out, and I try to also. I think every person that I meet, even if it's not obvious, the day that we meet, I like what the reason is that we met. I always try to like act on having met someone, whether that's like, hey, I'm inviting you to X thing, or if it's a new filmmaker, like, hey, I need a PA for this 6 months from now, or if it's someone that I want to connect with that I feel has knowledge to offer, I ask to get a lunch or something on the calendar ASAP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Sakinah, what's your strategy?
Similar to Marishka and Jeremy, I was gonna say, Jeremy, I probably would have like linked with you at a film festival and been like, yeah,
right. Right.
But yeah, no, I do the same. I get contacts. I email and I ask them if I can see some more of their work, and I'll send them. I'll give them like a link to my work. Sometimes I ask them if they need an AD or if they need a PA. People who I feel like I can learn from, I ask if I can shadow them on their next project. So like recently, I was just at like the Nuku Film Fest. This was like 2 nights ago, and one of the women, she won like something big, and I can't even remember what it was. I'm like blanking on it, but I was like, this woman, her work is incredible. Her film was phenomenal. I was like, I want to be on a film like that. And so I asked her like straight up, I was just like, listen, I just want to shadow you. Can I just be around you? And she was like, you to work. And I was like, please do. So yeah, so just simple things like that, just like offer, like Jeremy said, offer a hand, offer something. And I feel like people always need a helping hand in film. So that'll always work.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you all. I'm really excited to follow whatever it is that you guys do next. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me.